Have screwed around with the land generation, and I have arrived at something which I think holds great promise. It was kind of tricky to get the lands exactly the way that I wanted them, and it's hard to believe, but this is only about 190 lands here. It's crazy to think about how few lands there are. And I know that this doesn't look like Petra right now. We've got snow over here. We've got some flat rocks. We've got some gravel up here at this elevation. So it doesn't look like Petra, but that is kind of the purpose of today's stream, is to get it to look like Petra. The reason that this doesn't look like Petra now is because we seldom actually put down the lands in the land generation that we're serious about using. In fact, usually we put down the terrains for those lands that we know we're not going to use, because we can just change them later. The important thing is that we have different types of terrain in all of these different sections. Okay, we've got like a patch of grass here, and we've got dirt up here, and we've got rock over here. We've got this narrow gap in the rock, and this is going to be our ultimately our canyon, our curvy canyon that's going through the center of Petra. And we've got snow over here because this is going to kind of be a unique ridge terrain feature. Petra is somewhat rocky and mountainous. So we're going to have lots of canyons. It's going to be kind of a recurring theme. We got a canyon over here. We got a canyon over here. I ended up actually, see these flags, the player lands are actually out here too. So this is going to have to be a nomad style map, just because there's not really any space to put the players over here, because this is where these bell curves are. And these bell curves are basically providing a space for these other neutral lands that are avoiding each other to spawn in that make the canyon random. So what do we do now? Well, now we add the elevation. And because we've got all these different terrains kicking around, we can target specific sections of this map for elevation. And there are a couple of things that I have done already. So we'll just go straight into the script, and we'll get right on it here. So we've got this command right here, create elevation 4. We've got a lot of different tiles that are being targeted for this, and we're going to say that we want maybe 10 clumps. We don't need a lot of clumps here. And what this command is going to do is this command is going to elevate all of the rock here, this canyon terrain as it's called. Okay, and this is actually going to form the canyon that we know. Now, the canyon, this is not the total story of the canyon, because ultimately we're going to target this canyon terrain with additional rocky objects near this snaky area. But this will at least get us the elevation that we sort of expect. You can't really work with cliffs in Age of Empires 2, unfortunately. Cliffs are not really controllable. Anyway, so this is going to be a start for us. First step. Second step that we had was we were going to elevate this in kind of a cute manner. So let's actually also add some notes here. So we're going to say elevating canyon walls for this. And then we're going to say elevating canyon, we're going to call this the main canyon. Maybe the snaky canyon. Snaky canyon walls. Do I need an E here? Whatever. Elevating shortcut canyons. These are going to be the shortcut canyons. And then we can uncomment this. These are two things that I set up a long time ago to help me get an idea of how these lands were going to interact, how they were going to work. The best way to do it would be, and so now when we hit generate there, that other one is targeting this, and we've got this kind of cute spaced out hill here. This looks almost terraced and chopped. And we could change that around, but it's not really terribly necessary. Now I think what I'd like to do is I would like to apply additional elevation effects on this snaky canyon portion. And we're just going to provide little clumps on this, maybe clumps that take it up to elevation 5 or 6. So let's go ahead and do that now. So to do that, we just copy this and we'll paste it down here. And we do all of it to elevation 4 initially. And then we're going to do like create elevation 6 perhaps. And we're not going to have 10,000 tiles. We're maybe going to have 200 tiles. And they're going to be split among 12 clumps. And let's see how that works there. So we should just get some organic little bumps on top of this to make it look more naturey. And hopefully we don't have any kind of bias. Okay, so you can see that we've got some random bumps over here. Okay, that's good, but what about this right here? It looks like this is not targeted. You know what we could do? We could try doing this in just 2 clumps. We could repeat this command a couple of times to make sure that stuff gets properly elevated. Then if we kept this seed, the random map generator is, the random number generator I should say, is pretty awful. Okay, there we go. So we got some basic elevation here. Nothing too fancy for now. I actually would like to make it a little bit more aggressive. So maybe we come up to 7 and we increase the number of tiles to 2,000 and having the same number of clumps here. And it looks like it's definitely got a southern bias. Yeah, look at that. Let me do a couple more generations. Maybe it'll be more equally distributed. Yeah, all right. We'll keep this for now. So we got some big hills here, and that's good. That's fine. However, what we do need to consider is that on a tiny map size, that number is actually going to be, it's going to elevate the whole thing, which is not what we want. So we're going to have to scale that. There's going to be a lot of scaling here, unfortunately. Now we're set scaling by groups, and I got to check my definitions here in Zetnus's guide. A set scale by groups will scale one of these parameters. It'll either scale the number of tiles or it will scale the number of clumps. I believe that it will scale the number of clumps. But let's go and just take a look here. So we come over here to elevation generation, and we have all this good stuff from Zetnus's guide, and set scale by size here. And this scales the number of tiles to map size. Okay. But we are set scaling by groups, so this scales the number of clumps to map size. All right, yes. So we do not need to include the number of clumps with this set scale by groups. And we actually don't even need set scale by groups in here too, because we're basically telling it to choose a couple of random places and try to get everything up to elevation 4. But for this one, we are going to need it. So let's come over here, and we are going to cut this right here. And we're going to enable balanced elevation, of course. We're going to say if tiny map, else if, and end if. And then I just remember here, I believe it is small map, else if medium map, else if large map, else if huge map, else, and then end if there. Let me just check map sizes. Let's see, map sizes. Okay, so tiny, small, medium, large, and huge. And then everything else, yeah. Gigantic is the last option, but we used else, which is basically if none of the above are true. So it will apply to giant or ludicrous size, which is fine. This map isn't really intended to support ludicrous size anyway. Okay, so we got all of these conditionals in here. We would like to try the 2,000 or whatever it is tiles for the huge and above. Okay, I think we tested it off on giant. Oops, that would be after this else statement here. Okay, very good. And now we need to go and we need to take a look at the area ratio to a 100 by 100 map. So we want to multiply that number of tiles by 1.4 and divide by 5.8. So let's get our calculator out, and we will make that multiplication, and we will start putting this stuff, these numbers in. So pull this over to the side here, my other screen where I can see it. And I'll pull this out of the way too. So we have area ratios. So as we're coming back here, so we want number of tiles, number of tiles, number of tiles. So every single one of these different options is going to get its own number of tiles. There we go. Okay. And now we're going to change these numbers depending on what our scaling says. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do 2,000 times 4.8 divided by 5.8. And that's going to be 1655. So we're going to want 1655 here. And now we're going to do this next one. So 2,000, oops, type it in the wrong place. So 2,000 times 4 divided by 5.8. And that's going to be 1379. Okay, and then the next one. Next one is going to be 2,000 times 2.8 divided by 5.8. And this is going to be 965. All right, and then we want 2,000 times 2.1 divided by 5.8, and that's going to be 724. All right, and then finally, for the tiny map size, that is going to be 1.4 times 2,000 divided by 5.8. This is going to be 48. No, that does not look right. One sec. 2,000. I think I might have done 200 instead. Times 1.4 divided by 5.8. Yeah, 483. Okay, that looks more reasonable. Now, the unfortunate thing is every time you want to go and change that, you have to change all of the numbers. So you really should make sure that those are, that those numbers are good and they're the ones that you want. All right, and then we're going to save that. Put our calculator over to the side here. And then when we go and check this out, instead of having this all be awkwardly elevated like this, we should now have little hills. Yes, excellent. And fortunately, those hills do not appear to have a bias either. Well, except for on this one. Oh my goodness, I spoke too soon. Well, thanks, DE. There were some in which it was working. All right, let's just try this instead. Let's give it one clump, and we'll do this like 4 times maybe. thing is the worst sometimes. And the devs are never given the time and budget they need to fix stuff. Now it all appears over here. Why do I even bother? Sometimes I wonder. Alright, well, screw that. We are just not going to elevate this because we can't, which is unfortunate. But don't worry, we will save this for something else. So if we comment that out, we should get the uniform elevation now. Nope. Let's try that. I've noticed that the fewer of these elevation commands you have, the more likely it is to do its thing, even though it's not doing it this time. God damn it. Alright, well let's just give it 20 clumps there and just hope that everything will be elevated properly. Nope. Let's try setting it back the way that it was. Alright, whatever. We'll leave it that way. And then let's see if we can uncomment this and get normal-ish elevation to show up. Let's do a few random generations. Yeah, it's very, very sensitive to the number of elevation generation commands you have over any one section. Alright, we're just going to leave that as is, and we're just going to hope that it does not have issues later. Note that it did not elevate some sections, but we're still going to have big rock objects in here. So it'll look canyon-like for sure. Okay. What else are we going to target for elevation? Well, we'll target this. Let's see if we can get away with... And this is the, I believe that's the Midland terrain. Oops. So we're going to put this comment in here. Elevating Midland terrain. Alright, and then the base terrain for this is going to be MD, L, and D terrain. And we're going to see if we can keep it the same in terms of the number of tiles, because we know that that's properly scaled. And let's see if we can get this to have some nice hills on it as well. Yeah, this is not bad. And this is less severe, but that's okay. That's kind of what I wanted. I don't want a ton of elevation in here because it's going to be a nomad start. Players need to be able to find a place for their town center, to build their town center. In fact, I might do a larger number of clumps. Let's maybe do like 18. might change the maximum height to 6. So let me create elevation 6. And let's bump up this number of clumps again, 24. Okay, let's see how it looks. We should not see that. Yeah, I think it's all right. This one is a little bit, it goes to be a little bit taller. I think maybe we'll go 6 and 5. I don't want it to be too tall, because I want this to be the tallest over here. Forget what base elevation I gave that. Yep, this looks pretty good. Just a rocky, hilly, mountainous region where Petra is. There's no snow, but we'll convert the snow later. Let's target this upland here. Elevating upland terrain. We have midland, we have upland, and of course we have base terrain. I'm kind of doing these in the order of importance to me, I suppose. That. And this is going to be create elevation 7. And this is going to be UP, LND, upland terrain, and we'll probably have to change the numbers on this one. Although this is not bad. I want this to be difficult to wall, and because by nature of it being very open. But maybe there will be some other resources up here or something. I haven't exactly decided yet. But you can see that there is no, this is considered the lowland terrain, and this is considered the opening terrain. Both of these are here to prevent elevation. So I'm going to be elevating this terrain later, and I don't want any elevation here, so I put a different terrain down in that location. This isn't terribly suitable for town centers. And that's the way I like it. Might be necessary to make it a little bit safer for town centers. Maybe we reduce the number of clumps to 12 on that one. And then we'll bump up to giant size, assuming that this looks okay. Alright, let's bump up to giant size, and let's see how all of this elevation scales. Yeah, it's alright. I think the scaling is not perfect, but we can always tweak it going through the different map sizes. But it's not terribly important now to do this. To sort of set it up in principle. Theoretically, the area of all of these shapes should be proportional to the area of the map. So, but I guess it's not completely perfect. So now let's elevate the base terrain. And the base terrain is unbuildable. So we're going to create elevation 1, I think. It's nothing too fancy. That's going to be base terrain, number of clumps, 24. We're going to leave the rest of it as is. The big thing is to introduce these elevations, to have them sort of working in principle, make sure that nothing appears. Like, we don't really want elevation in here if we can help it, although it does look like some of it appeared in here. We mostly just want it around the outskirts out here. Yeah, like that. I think that we will actually reduce those numbers, because I think that this is too much. It doesn't really make sense for all of this to be completely flat. If we can avoid elevation over here, that would be ideal. But I'm not sure that we can, short of changing the land generation, because we are going to target this for terrain operations later, since this is technically part of a canyon. All right, let us cut these numbers in half. This is going to be 241, and this is going to be 362. And this is going to be 482. And this is going to be 780. This is going to be 830. And this is going to be 1,000. Okay, just a quick mental math here. To cut all of that in half. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get stuff showing up. No, it still comes. Well, we'll see how it goes. I think I am going to increase the number of clumps for that too, maybe up to 48. Because it is boring to have the base terrain be completely flat. We could do it, but I would prefer to add some. Yeah, there we go. All right. I think we can start the terrain layering now. This is kind of a very delicate operation, actually. I don't think there's anything more we want to do. We've targeted the different sections. This is specifically not going to be elevated. That's the only reason this is different here. This is a different terrain to keep these little hills from showing up in front of our glorious canyon. Okay. So we'll come up in here, and this is all set. We condense this in our script. We might play with the scaling here, but don't have to do that right now. I think it's okay if it looks a little bit flatter on average for these giant sizes, because you want players to potentially be able to build town centers over here. Or not you, but I. I want that. And I'm making the map, so I make the call. It's a tiny size. Yeah, it still looks good. Remember, on a tiny size, there's going to be fewer players trying to build town centers, so who knows? Who knows where they'll build their town center? And I think the nomad aspect is going to add a lot of complexity to this, because you don't know which way your opponent is going to go. If he's going to go on the same side as you, and you also don't know where he will build his town, what his plan will be. If he'll come over on the same side, but he'll come up here, or if he'll come over on the same side or down here, or if you'll have opposite sides here and here, or if you'll have opposite sides up here and over here. You just don't know. All right. So let's start converting terrain now, I think, is the thing to do. So the first thing that we want to do is we are going to define flat canyon young opening, and we're going to say if flat canyon opening and end if, and this will allow us to collapse the lines of code that achieve this. And let's copy this over here, and we're going to cut that, and we're going to paste it here. We're going to uncomment it, and we are going to, there we go. And we're going to tab it inward, and we're going to change this to what we need. So we're going to create base terrain now. And our terrain that we're going to target with that is LW LND terrain. And we're not going to do it within a height limits or anything like that. And we're basically just going to say go and find every single tile of lowland terrain and convert that over to the base terrain. And we'll do this 4 times for good measure, because 4 times is the charm. So we will copy that in there and hit save, and then when we hit generate, this little patch of green should be completely gone. So we hit generate, and indeed this patch of green has completely vanished. It has been replaced with, well, this bordering terrain here. It's all the way out here. Okay, and it would be the case regardless of whether or not we generated it on a tiny or a giant map size. Remember, guys, the only reason that that land was there in the first place was so that no elevation would show up here. So the entrance of the canyon seems more dramatic, except for apparently this little tiny piece right here. But that's all right. That's okay. It's small. It's small. It's like a pile of rocks, and they've dug out the canyon as well to make it a little bit prettier to walk through. Wow, look at this. It's quite the snaky canyon right here. Okay, and then what are we going to clean up next? Well, that would depend a great deal on how we're going to... Probably the most challenging thing, it honestly, is going to be this shortcut terrain, these shortcut canyons here. And so we essentially have a choice of converting this snow terrain to this terrain here, or we have a choice of converting it to back to the base terrain there. And which one we choose is important because there's advantages and disadvantages. Like if we converted this all to the base terrain, then it would be harder to use space into other terrain types, for instance, to create terrain in this region, because this is all going to be the same terrain now. Whereas if we used space into other terrain types, we could reference this. But I'm just going to convert it to our base terrain for now. It seems to be in order. This whole thing kind of started as me wanting a way to contain this highland terrain here. And I guess I kind of liked the idea of doing some weird terrace type elevation on it. So there we are. So I think I am going to convert it over to... Oh, wait. Hold on a second. You know what we should do actually first? Is... Aha, yes. So if we convert this to the base terrain, then all of this stuff is going to be base terrain here. And that's fine, except when we go to convert it back to something that you can build on, then we'll be converting all of this as well. And I don't want to convert all of this. I actually want these slopes to be here, if you will. So I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to convert all base terrain that is, let's say, below a certain elevation. We're going to convert all of that to actually this snow terrain, as weird as that sounds right here. And of course, it doesn't have to be snow terrain. We can change it to whatever we want. But if we do that, then that will allow us to have an unbuildable hill here, so you can't wall to the edge of the map. Where is it? Yeah, so it'll still allow this. That's the whole significance about this base terrain. It's a quicksand, but you can wall on this. So this is why this is important. So we're going to target this quicksand terrain below a certain elevation. I believe it's below elevation 2. We're going to convert it to this snow terrain. May not necessarily stay snow terrain. And that will leave these hills here. And that'll be a good thing. We also kind of want to clean up this area here as well. I think that a lot of this stuff is actually going to get converted into rock so that we can continue. Because if we target the rock with the big African rock formations, it'll be an easier way to place the objects. So let's go ahead and start working on that. So we are defining, okay, so now we're going to define, and we're going to say maybe base terrain flat, or base terrain low elev buildable. Oh, that's such a long name. That's such a long name. Well, all right, whatever. We'll keep it for now until I can think of something more creative. And if base terrain low elevation buildable. Okay, and here we have it. So create terrain, base terrain. Okay, so we're going to create terrain, and this is going to be the SHCT is what we're going to be creating. SHCT, and that's the snow right now, hence the 32. And SHCT TER, and the base terrain is going to be BT, base terrain. We're going to target every single little piece of quicksand that we can find, but it has to be within a certain height limits. So height limits, we're going to set to 0, 2. And let's see how we do with this. There might be a few gaps, who knows. Probably have to repeat the command multiple times. Aha! I have discovered why we cannot do it that way. Because this terrain is also base terrain, and this needs to be unbuildable. We cannot have people walling off the canyon, unfortunately. And it looks like it didn't even really solve our problem. Whatever. I couldn't even think of a creative name for that anyway. I'll tell you what, I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to target this base terrain here with this highland terrain. And I want to convert this slope, this highland terrain, I want to convert this slope to this highland terrain type. Because I want to come in here and I want to use this for something else later. I'd like to convert a lot of this stuff, but I don't know that I'm really going to have the opportunity. I guess we'll have to see. I can do that. All right. So we'll do maybe Highland layering. See if we can make progress on that one. And we also have to make just big decisions in general. If Highland layering, and if, and so let us create H, L, and D. Let's create Highland terrain. And we're going to create it. Actually, it's not Highland, is it? It's upland. Yeah, I called it upland. So we should probably clarify that. Not high, but up. They mean similar things, I suppose. So the upland layering, we are going to target base terrain, and we're going to do height limits, I think of 4 to 5, and then spacing. Well, let's see where these height limits end us up. I think that this is a little bit taller than most. I think this is the only place where base terrain is stretched up to 5. No, it looks like it also appears here as well as here. Yeah, so that didn't really accomplish anything except to put occasional highland terrain where we don't want it. All right. Oh, it's hard to know where to start sometimes. All right, this should be not very controversial at all. Let us create terrain, and we're going to create midland terrain, MD, LND, and we're going to target the canyon terrain, and we are going to set the height limits of 4 to 7. And that should take care of this. That'll be nice. Ugh. Well, looky what we have here. It failed to elevate it properly. Over here, it elevated just fine. That is so annoying. I wish they would freaking fix that. But they won't, because I'm the only one who complains about it. Well, we could go lower. I guess we could go to 3, just in case it does fail. I don't think we'll be too adversely impacted by that. You know, like, our cliffs will be less tall, but so what? I think it'll be worth it in the long run. So it'll be harder to detect when that happens. We've got dirt on top of these cliffs, so that's good. I think I'm going to try to make this a little bit more uniform here. Sometimes we have base terrain, and sometimes we have quicksand on the top of this flat, and I don't know how much we really want that to mix. I'm a big believer that somehow, in some way, at specifically this height across the map, we will have a contiguous layer of unbuildable terrain, making it impossible to wall to the edge of the map. I don't care, and in fact, I don't think that it should be the case where this is all unbuildable terrain, because I think players might want to build down here. Maybe I'll put little oases or something down this way. Who knows? But I think next step is we're going to work on this midland a little bit, and we are going to see if we can convert some of this quicksand terrain. All right, so let's define midland layering, and then we're going to say if midland layering and if, I promised to make this map years ago, and I kind of feel bad that I'm only now honoring that promise, but at least I am eventually doing it. So we're going to comment this as saying that we are we are converting the tops of canyons to midland. And then what did we do here? Flat canyon opening. Oh, we're just going to say removing different opening terrain. It was there just to prevent elevation. Okay. And now we are going to clean up midland edges. All right. Yes, I think that this is what we want. I have an idea. So we're going to create terrain. I'm thinking about it. We're actually not going to do this with height limits. It might seem counterintuitive, but I have an idea. So we create terrain. We're going to do SHCT, the shortcut terrain, actually. And the base terrain is going to be this midland. Actually, it's going to be the base terrain, just BT, that we're targeting. We're going to try to convert 100% of it, and as many clumps as possible. But we're going to do space into other terrain types of 2. And so what this will do is this will go and it'll target all of this base terrain here, and it will convert it into this snow terrain, actually, as long as it is 2 tiles away from any other type of terrain. So in other words, it will avoid this midland terrain here, and it'll actually also will avoid this highland or upland terrain here. We might want to increase that avoidance a little bit, perhaps, maybe to make it 3. But to just illustrate the effect with 2 for now, we've got this. So you can see that the snow has spilled out now. Got more snow in here. This is still unbuildable terrain, so this is good, because I want this to be an unbuildable strip here. I want this map to be able to survive the criticism that it's campy. People say that I make campy maps, but I don't make campy maps. I make maps that look campy, but aren't, so that players get tricked. I love tricking people. At least, not like in real life and not like in a real harmful way, but I like making people work for their win here. I don't want to make something that's just a carbon copy. Not a carbon copy, but like a reskin of Arabia or something. Okay, so it's probably best or most easily seen over here. And so if we went and we tried to wall this, but you can see that there's a thin layer of the unbuildable terrain on this side, so you just can't get at it. Okay, and so this is good. This is what we are going for. You can still actually wall most of this. So again, I think I'm going to expand it to 3 or maybe even 4, because you could still wall in here and be kind of annoying, but they'll always have like a passageway to get out of this canyon and come up here. And it doesn't mess with this at all. So that's really good. And of course, players are not going to be able to climb out of the canyon because we're going to put a bunch of rocks blocking the path. This is untouched, which is good. So yeah, this was the command that I needed to do, but I didn't happen to think of 5 minutes ago when we were doing it. So let's increase this maybe to 4 and see how it looks. I think 4 might be the right number. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We can always have it be 4 and then like specifically target this gravel to cover more of this. If not, actually, is maybe like a mask so that it blends a little bit better. But I wouldn't worry about the fact that it looks terrible. This is all just about controlling the terrain properties for now. All right, so now we kind of have forced this unbuildable terrain further down, and we could actually increase it up to even 5 for that matter. Doesn't really bother me. Okay. Oops. We accidentally generated because I love generating. So we are going to repeat this command for good measure. Unlike with the elevation generation, which has issues if you repeat the same command multiple times, this one does not care. And in fact, sometimes you have to repeat a command multiple times in order to get it to work. So instead of saying clean up midland edges, we're going to say, whatever. Clean up midland edges is fine. And then now we will have another group, though. And we are going to now convert some of this base terrain into this dirt terrain, but we're going to maybe avoid this snow by a certain distance. So that should make it all nice. So we're going to have MD, L, and D, midland terrain, base terrain, BT, and then space and other terrain types. Maybe we'll make this 2. So it's a little bit easier to see. This is going to go in and target. We'll copy this over because I'm pretty confident in that. And if it doesn't work, then we'll just have to change something 4 times, but it should work. And this is going to pull this down. And I think it will also clean up these edges too. Oh, no, it doesn't, because this is a different terrain type. What do we got here? Huh. We have a little bit of unbuildable terrain here. Did we cause that? I don't think we caused that. Did we simply not get it? Is the question. See how we're doing over here. Yeah, so this is pretty satisfying. This has achieved the effect that we were looking for. Unwallable to the edge of the map. There's a bit of dirt terrain here. The dirt terrain being placed here because, well, because it can be. It's allowed by our rules. What I'm interested in is this base terrain here. I guess maybe we could just perform some cleanup, maybe. We target base terrain and we replace it with snow as long as it has a space in other terrain types of 1. Maybe that would help us get that there. So now we do something like this, perhaps. To make these go away. Although that is then going to follow up to here, which we still have. Yeah, I mean, it's still technically unwallable, which is good. And that's still technically unwallable. So maybe, actually, to simplify things, yeah, I'm not sure what this is. Well, I guess I kind of know what that's doing. But ultimately, it's resulting in this single tile gap, if you will. Let's try increasing it to 2 to see if it makes it a little bit more noticeable, while still removing those central features. Do we have... Yes, we do have a little patch of unbuildable terrain right there. Is it a huge deal, though? I don't think so. But it could mess up future operations. So we're going to come over here and we're going to say if undefined and if. And let's do these one at a time. So we have not defined undefined because it is undefined. We hit generate. Do we have this gap here in the first place? No. The gap does not appear there until later. I think we're going to do the caps for this first. And if we do a space in other terrain types, we can prevent this from being targeted. So let's try that. So we're going to convert. Oh, no. I remember why we didn't do that. We didn't do that because of this interface right here. So we'd essentially have to convert all of this over to the midland terrain first, which I guess we could do. Yeah, let's do that. Let's give it a try. So over here, converting the tops of canyons to midland terrain. Yeah, so we already did this. And now we're going to we're going to say converting canyon shortcut terrain. Just like that. SHCT to ER. And let's see. Do we wish to specify any sort of conditions or any... I don't necessarily know that I even want to do that, though, because I might want to target this area to have less dense trees or different features. And at least with this down here, I know that I can come back later and hit it with height limits. But if I turn all of this to midland terrain, then there's like no going back. Yeah, so I actually don't think I'm going to do that. So then we're going to attack it with height limits then. We're going to say if you are base terrain and you are above 3, between 3 and 7, you will become midland terrain. But then the problem becomes is this will see midland terrain creep over here. But let's try it and see if we can build on that. So I'm going to do MD, LND, midland terrain, base terrain, BT, and then space and other terrain types we will replace with height limits. 3 to 7. Yep, there it is. We somewhat predicted that. So if we introduced space and other terrain types, then, yeah, you know, I guess it wouldn't be so bad because it would just avoid this by 1, and then we're going to convert this over anyway, so, like, who cares? So let's do space and other terrain types of 1. And we should confirm that this no longer appears here. This is a little bit, you know, like we don't convert this here, but it's fine because we'll just convert all of this snow over later. Okay. So we'll repeat that command 4 times for good measure. Ah, thank you, YouTube. I am glad to know that I am live on my channel. Just now, too. Okay. Getting that message a little bit late. I've been here for an hour already, if you can believe that. So I hope I'm not now, just only now live. If I've been live for some time and they're just sending an email for fun. So now we can go through and we can convert this base terrain to the snow, as long as it has a certain spacing to other terrain types. we'll give that a try. I think maybe what happened was the spacing of other terrain types was too large, and therefore it would not place the snow here because it was too close to this dirt. Maybe that's what was happening. So perhaps what we have to do is we have to slowly, because if we make the space in other terrain types too small, I think it'll creep more up this hill than I'm willing to allow. So maybe we try to creep this gravel down toward it. Well, let's see what happens. So we're going to go in now and we're going to convert this base terrain to our snow. And we should have that right here. Converting base terrain to shortcut terrain. Yeah. All right. And space and other terrain types of 4 might be large. Let's make it 2 for now. Okay, no gaps over here. That's good. We still have, so in other words, this is contiguous snow in here, which is nice. So somebody could not have to worry about any building challenges in here. Don't worry about this. We'll convert this later. This, of course, is supposed to be unbuildable in here. And this is supposed to be unwallable to the edge of that. You shouldn't be able to wall to the, well, through here, I guess. So even if you wanted to, we could, this is high enough, we could deal with that. And most importantly is you cannot wall this off here, which is good. So I'm really liking how this map is coming now. What's our status? We got this one little clump of, I guess it doesn't really matter, huh? Because it's literally unwallable right here, and we want that. So who cares if it's a little unwallable over there? All right, good. So sometimes with the terrain generation, it's about finding the simplest possible way of solving the problem. All right, what else? So let's see exactly what we have here. I believe we have a wall of unbuildable terrain here, and across this. And that's fine because we're going to have rocks strewn in here, but it would be nice to try to kind of make this a little bit better. So, because when we start putting in placeholders on like our base terrain out here and everything like that, they're going to start appearing over here. And then when we tell stuff to avoid things like that base terrain, it will also avoid this, and that may not be desirable. So although I can't foresee a specific requirement to get rid of this unwallable terrain here at this time, it would be good practice to do it if it is possible. And I believe that it is possible. Would you guys feel more comfortable if I turned this into desert terrain? Because I think that's basically what I have in mind. Let's just come up over here and let's bring our resources, our reference material, and let's just look up whatever the desert material is. We should launch Advanced Genie Editor as well. Although I don't think we're going to need it today, because we're just doing the terrains. We've already done the elevations, and that was basically just get some basic elevations here to show the character of the map. And they were very important, right? If we didn't have the elevations, then we would not have been able to get this canyon in place. because this, if you may recall, this was all flat when we started. So it was very important to do it, and it did fight us a little bit. We've selected elevations to mitigate that sort of that damage. All right, and desert is number 14, which is what I thought it was. So let us change this canyon terrain to 14, which is desert, instead of from 40, which is, oh wait. No, it's shortcut terrain. There we go. It was snow. Now we're going to make it actual desert terrain. And I had it snow so that I could see it more easily on the mini-map. But now we're going to change it over to desert, and of course this is going to look a lot more Petra-esque than the snow, right? This is more appropriate. So although this area and this area are technically the same, well, they're the same type of terrain now, I really don't mind if this area is similar to this area in terms of resource distribution. Namely, this is essentially going to be very scarce. Like, there's not going to be a lot of trees on this, but there will be more trees up here. And the purpose of that is to make it easier to, or harder to wall this section here. So next, though, we got to clean this up somehow. We still have, even though we changed that, we still got, you know, these unbuildable sections here and here. So if there were a way of changing that, we definitely should try to get there. So let me think about this for a second. What if we were to change this grass terrain above elevation 0? What if we were to change that into the base terrain? And then we targeted this right here. I don't know if doing this now is the best choice. Maybe we should have done that earlier when we were converting base terrain to a bunch of other things. But you know, it's safe what we've done. This is safe now. We know this is going to be good. So maybe it's just fine the way that it is. If we converted this into this base terrain, and then we converted that base terrain into dirt, that could work out quite nicely. I'm just thinking we have base terrain over here though, and this is still unwallable. Cannot wall this still. So do we present a risk of making this suddenly wallable if we do that? We'll have to think about that, and we'll have to be careful. But as long as we remember it, that's the important part. So we've got undefined still. We never really use this. Let's just get rid of it. And we're going to start a new section. So we will define, I don't know, opening layering. So this is terrain layering that's relevant to our opening terrain. We're going to say if opening layering, we're going to define it, and then end if. Now, what really do we want to accomplish here? First of all, I have to say that our opening layering, or our opening terrain, first and foremost, this, as we place it as land before elevation happens, it needs to be a different terrain, because if it were dirt, or if it were potentially desert, or if it were this, it could, like our canyon mouth terrain, be targeted by elevation. We want this area to be flat. So actually, I think the very first thing that we do here is, now that elevation is complete, we actually don't want grass here. We want this to be unbuildable terrain to start out with. So the very first thing that we are going to do is we are going to convert that into the base terrain. So we are going to just do something like this. We're going to copy this and paste that there, and we're going to say create terrain. We're going to say base terrain, and the terrain that we will target, base terrain, is the the syntax, the command. But we are going to target, I think it's open ter. Yes. We're not going to do any space and other terrain types or anything like that. But fundamentally, we need to make this terrain unbuildable for now. That's the first thing that we need to accomplish throughout all of this. We really think about what we want, right? Because the players are going to be starting here. I guess technically we could make it, we will want it to be buildable later because we're going to have stuff in here potentially. But let's just run that, and we should confirm that it's an open clearing. But of course, did we not save or something? We're creating terrain, base terrain, open ter. Do we not have open ter defined? We do not. Okay, well, that is a problem. Are we using open ter down here? I think we are. Yes, we are. So we have open ter here, but we don't have it defined, which means that this thing is just placing whatever it wants. So we got lowland, midland, upland, shortcut, canyon, and now we're going to define open ter. And the important thing is that it just needs to be different. It needs to be different from any of these others. It doesn't really matter what it is because we're literally replacing it with base terrain, as long as it's not something stupid like water where it'll force a beach. Because we don't want to have a chance of having like leftover beaches or something like that. That would be very unsavory. So we're just gonna define it as grass, which is number 0. And now when we run it, we should confirm that this is again an open clearing. Okay, excellent. It's an open clearing, and if we came in here and we tried to build stone walls, we would fail. You can't build stone walls here. Now, can you build over here? Yes, you can, because this is desert. And then at some point, it transitions into this open terrain. Okay, so maybe what we need to do is we actually need to define that open terrain first so that our subsequent operations, because it's not really contingent on height limits, it's not contingent on spacing to other terrain types. So maybe we define that first and let the other terrain generation options or commands work their magic. It's similar to the flat canyon opening, right? Where it's just there to prevent elevation. So and let's add ourselves a little comment here just to look like we care. We're going to say removing different I'm thinking about this now. If we do this, this is essentially going to become base terrain. We won't be able to target this with any specific. Yeah, actually, I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that. I do want to do this last because I want that gap of base terrain there. We've pretty much eradicated the base terrain everywhere else. If we do that, we're really going to be messing this up. We're going to be getting rid of it. So let us convert this open ter now. Oh, actually, you know what? We could replace it with the canyon terrain. That would probably be even better. I'm just thinking, now we don't have a gap, and if we did that, we would have a gap. Let's see. Let's see how this plays out, how this looks. Yeah, there it is. Um, and we can specifically target that. But I think that this also has the thin layer of quicksand at the top. But I think we could still get that with height limits. Let's see. Yeah, so see how we can't wall this? Even though you don't see any rock terrain there, you can't wall it because that is quicksand terrain. So, you know, we actually could just convert all quicksand terrain that is above a certain elevation to this rock terrain and just kind of eradicate all of our base terrain in that way. That is an option. I like the way that this looks. The rock terrain is definitely more visible. It's more readable for the players. Hmm. Let us undefine this for now. While I think about it. If anybody has any ideas, let me know. Oh, you know what? Maybe we just convert this base terrain into the open terrain, space and other terrain types of 1. Well, no, because that wouldn't really help. Because it would have to it would still have to avoid this dirt terrain here. Yeah, maybe we just target this dirt and we tell it to convert all quicksand terrain above a certain elevation into dirt, and we just be done with that. So that's not going to be under this, it's going to be under midland layering. I bet we should be able to coax that out of this somehow. So we create terrain. Midland terrain, which is our dirt, and we do height limits of maybe 5 to 7, and we do no space in other terrain types. So if we did that, it would show up over here, I think. So that's unwallable. This is still unwallable, so it looks like nothing happened. Probably because there is no base terrain between 5 and 7. So let's do 4 and 7. Well, no, there has to be, because there's this. Well, let's see if we can go to reaction out of it. What am I overlooking here? Create midland terrain. Midland terrain is 6, so that's just traditional dirt. Goes on a base terrain of BT, base terrain. Maybe we just need more of these. Maybe it's having a hard time grabbing everything. We don't have anything coming later that could be messing with it. What's going on? All right. We'll comment this out and see what happens to confirm that it's actually registering a changed script somehow. Okay, it does indeed go back to the way that it was. So maybe above a certain height limits, we can convert some of this opening terrain into this, yeah, maybe that's what we do. We convert this opening terrain into this base terrain above a certain height limits. Let's give that a try. So we're going to say, we're actually going to have undefined up here. So we're going to work on this one at a time, as always. I'm going to cut that out, paste that there, and we're going to say converting opening terrain to base terrain above a certain height limit. Okay, and let's copy this, paste that there. We're going to create terrain, base terrain, BT. Its base terrain is open terrain. And we're going to go height limits of 1 to 7. We're going to convert it all. And let's repeat this, because we need this opening terrain, but we only need it at elevation 0. We don't really want it to spill up the side like this. Okay, and it does not work because this is not defined. We forgot to redefine that. Okay. And it still doesn't work. Why? Open ter. We need open ter for terrain. So we were attempting to use a terrain that had not been defined. All right, third time's the charm. There we go. Excellent. So we still have our open terrain here. Then we could see how this handles it. I suspect that it'll still be left over, or that there will be something left over after we're done. But let's take a look more closely here. So we're converting the tops of the canyons to midland terrain. We're targeting between heights 3 and 7. And this is converting from 1 to 7. So therefore, if we maybe did 3 to 7 here, maybe that would work a little bit better. Because this is just purely within... Oh, actually, no, this is the canyon terrain, so it's not going to matter anyway. Clean up midland edges. So this is converting from base terrain to midland terrain. All right, well, let's do these first two, and we'll give that a try. Ah, it is as I feared. There's that gap there. But that could just be from the lack of overlap. So what if we did this 4 to 7? So that the green goes up one more tile. Ooh. It does go up one more tile, but there's still that layer of unbuildable terrain there. Because this is avoiding other terrain types by 1. So, if we got rid of that for now, and we went back to 3 for this, or really we just went to 1, I have an idea. We can target a transformation. We can target a transformation according to heights first. Okay, so this is all. Actually, you know what? Let's go to 0, 0. No, actually, I don't think we can do that. Unless we specify that we want it on flat terrain only. Which we could do. Yeah, let's do that. And this isn't avoiding another terrain type by a certain distance, so I think we can do that here. All right, and then let's see. It's always a fun little puzzle with these things. Figuring out what order you need to do something in. So we're going to create terrain DLC black. And we're going to be replacing open terrain. We're going to do spacing to other terrain types of 1. And we're going to do set flat terrain only. And then I think we should just get a big blob of black right here. And this is the open terrain that we wanted to place things according to. And then we're going to actually, do we even need this first? Let's undefine this, and we'll check and see. We'll repeat this. We'll say something like, there we go. Just to make sure that it does it. Okay, we got this black terrain is here. It's on entirely flat terrain, which is what we want, so we don't have to worry about it sloping up. And now we convert open ter to the base terrain, and we're going to leave that black behind. Insertion of placeholder terrain, we're going to say here. Only on flat them in here. We're going to say removal of opening terrain on sloped surfaces. We could put, actually I like the word surface. All right. And now we'll bring that up here. But instead of targeting a height limit, we're just going to get rid of this. We're just going to let it all get converted to base terrain. This is actually so simple. I wish I had thought of this before. Okay, nice. So this is all base terrain now. And you know, how do you decide what becomes DLC rock and what becomes base terrain? I think it's kind of hard to decide. But we should be able to get rid of this now. I'm just thinking. If I target this with rock, there's nothing to stop this from getting targeted as well. I guess my only option is to target this with black, but I just got rid of the black. So I think I need to target this with Canyon Tur. Let's get rid of this for now. So if we save that, you can see that we've got lots of canyon terrain up here. So the issue is that there is small amounts of base terrain that show up here. So I guess we can target the base terrain above a certain height limit. Maybe that limit is 3. I think we do that next. Let's see. What have we got? Create terrain, base terrain on... Oh, right, okay. Let's target base terrain now above, because this is all still base terrain at this point. We'll target it above elevation 3, and we'll convert it into the midland terrain. Conversion of base terrain above certain elevation to midland terrain. So we create midland terrain, and the base terrain is going to be BT, and we're going to target everything that is 3 to 7. Oops. All right, that has the unfortunate side effect of hitting this as well. But we can actually migrate this desert gravel terrain downward so that that doesn't happen. We are starting to affect this. Maybe we go maybe we go 2. Okay, that looks good. Yes, I like this. It looks good so far. So let's go back and modify this so that that does not happen. So we're going to define highland layering. We're going to say if, actually it's not highland, it's upland. So if upland layering, and if, so we will undefine this for now. We have a good idea of what it's going to do. And we're essentially going to need to pull this DLC desert gravel down. And we're going to need space in other terrain types to do that. So we take all base terrain and we put down a placeholder. So we're going to say establishing, oops, not east, establishing placeholder terrain. We are going to create terrain DLC black again. And our base terrain is going to be BT. And we're going to do space and other terrain types of 2. Spacing to other terrain types of 2. And otherwise it's just going to cover everything. Just like that. Except it's going to be spaced far away from everything else. Now we're going to convert this base terrain into our highland terrain. And then we'll just convert the DLC black back into our original base terrain. This is kind of our way of creeping it outward. I've done this before on other maps. Okay, so now we upland creep or something like that, we could call it. We should call it what it is. We're not really layering, we're creeping. Like a creep. Okay, moving upland terrain outward. And now we're going to create terrain upland UPLND ter. And this is going to have space and other terrain types of 1, I think. Okay, let's see what happens here. Okay, good. So as you can see, we've moved the gravel down. So we're just going to do that a couple more times. So let's repeat this command for good measure to make sure that it gets everything. And then we're going to revert back to base terrain from placeholder. And that's essentially this, but reversed and without the space and other terrain types. So this goes here, and this goes here, and space and other terrain types goes away. And then these three, which I copied for no reason, get deleted. And then this whole command is repeated. Oops. So it sets everything back the way that it was. The difference is that stuff got moved down by 1. And I think that we'll do this another time. We'll do this again. But as you can see, it looks exactly the same as before. There might be a little patch of stuff there. We might have to do like a post-operation cleanup or something like that, just to make sure that this highland terrain doesn't end up here. The other possibility is that this is an artifact of an imperfect setup. Maybe if I had 8 commands or something, it would be fine. So let's try that first. Well, it's probably getting put down here. So if we had, just because I'm curious where those are coming from. I don't think it's going to mess with our plans too much, but I'm still curious. I'll paste that there, save it. It's undefined, and let's keep this seed, and let's see what's going on. I don't see them. What we could also try doing, for the sake of lessing or making the sensitivity less, is we could increase this spacing to 3, 3, 3, and 3, and then increase this to 2, 2, 2, and 2. And we could try it again and see if this is better behaved, so it'll be less sensitive. I don't like doing insensitive stuff, because it sometimes can leave pockets of things in some places. But let's try it. We're here, might as well. Let's see if those little patches of stone go away. And indeed they have. Although this appears to be spilling down now in an unusual manner. Might even have to do some kind of cleanup operation. There's still that one there. Crap. All right, well, we will set that back. We'll try doing 8. Sometimes you really have to throw the book at it. but this is definitely a method that you can use to creep terrains. All right. And it seems like it's just appearing down here too, which I guess is sort of an advantage. I don't know what those extra commands are buying us. Let's keep this seed since it's been a little while. Let's get rid of 4 of these. And we'll get rid of 4 of these. Because it's very easy for this thing to pick up on some small thing and then propagate an error, if you will. And I don't really know that they bought us anything, honestly. So I'll tell you what. Let's introduce another command. And we are going to create terrain, base terrain. And we're just going to do a little bit of touch-up. We'll call it. We'll create base terrain. We'll target up LND tur. And we'll target it within a set of height limits. Height limits 0 to 0. There we go. And we'll just make sure that we get those little pockets that might pop up. Whoops. And I wish I were better at pasting these in. Okay, there we go. We'll do a little bit of a cleanup. Okay. And yes, they are gone. It makes me wonder if we could have cleaned that up before doing the creep. But, you know, mission accomplished. We got this gravel to spill down the side a little bit more. And now let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it one more time for good measure. So we should be able to repeat that entire process just by copying and pasting all of that block of code there. Okay, and then once we hit generate, we should note that the gravel is going down another step. And indeed, that is the case. Okay, good. So, why were we creeping this gravel down? We were creeping this gravel down because we were inadvertently targeting this slope with what? Aha! Look at this. Oh my. Maybe it needs the 8 after all. And oh, look at that. We got some contamination on this side. So I'll tell you what, let's keep this seed and let's try the 8 again. Because it can be quite sensitive. But that's kind of the most annoying part, is to, because you don't want your script to be chock full of terrain commands that aren't doing anything. But on the other hand, sometimes it really needs encouragement. Just because this is the easiest thing to do is to just add this in, so might as well try it. Reverting back to base terrain from placeholder, clearly we'll need this as well. My experience is you need at least 4. Sometimes you need up to 8. depending on how patchy and how many different tiles of terrain you have flowing everywhere. Okay, that's gone. We have fewer of them. Now I'm wondering when these decided to show up here. That is somewhat annoying. We could actually do the same kind of creep, though, to this, I think. Actually, it might not work. So keeping this seed, let's get rid of our second creep operation and see if there's something. Yeah, so we got 1, 2, right? So after touch up, let's grab all of this and pull this into an undefined logical statement or conditional. And if we keep this seed, do we still have this gravel showing up here? Yes, we do. We do, but not in as large of quantities. So where is that gravel coming in? Well, let's see. That gravel is coming from this. Yeah, I think that we have to. Okay, we actually should, before we can do this, I think, we have to smooth out the edge between this dirt and this base terrain here. We got to smooth it out. The fact that it is so jagged is what is allowing the gravel to sneak in here. And we don't want that because the gravel could mess something up later. So you always got to be careful because it is very, very insidious. So I think that we will, for the sake of simplicity, let's move this up in it for now. I don't think it's not hurting anything. There are certain errors that do propagate as a result of that unevenness. But we were planning on smoothing that up anyway. So we're going to do something similar. We're going to undefine upland creep, and we're going to define midland smoothing. I'm going to say if midland smoothing, and if so we'll keep the same seed, because why not? We've already been working with it before. So we got this here, that's fine. We're not doing anything with this right now, so we haven't crept this out. So we should just be reverting to a more primitive state. And to smooth this out, we can actually do a similar type of creep that we did for this, I think. Just thinking about it. We'll replace all of this base terrain here with a placeholder, and then we will replace the base terrain that remains with this. But the challenge will be, yeah, I think it'll be okay. Challenge will be that this is not smooth, but this is better behaved than this over here. Or maybe we just go via height limits. That actually could be the play, because if we did via height limits, the heights are kind of inherently organized. They're inherently smooth. So maybe it's just that simple. Maybe we say we're going to take, let's try that, because the height limits would be simple. We're going to create terrain, midland terrain. Our base terrain is going to be BT. And in the height limits of 4 to 5, or 4 to 7, I should say. And that's it. Okay, I don't think that's good enough. I think we need to do 3. Yes. Now we've got now we've got this ring of dirt terrain showing up here. That's okay. We can deal with that. We'll just call this generic smoothing for now. We'll do 4 of these for good measure. And now, okay, so we're just going to apply generic height limiter. And now we will apply placeholder terrain. To get rid of that layer. I'm going to do DLC black. Space and other terrain types of 2. You guys know the drill. Okay, yeah, that looks good. And now we are going to convert this dirt into we're going to convert this dirt into this gravel terrain. Space and other terrain types of 1, I think. Well, hold on, no, because if we do that, then this dirt could be converted as well. Nah. Yeah. Because that dirt could show up over here as well, which we do not want. Oh, I know. Instead of that, let's do space and other terrain types of 1 for each of these so that the dirt simply can't show up next to the gravel. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Yep, no dirt. I'll mess with it a little bit over here, but I don't care about what's going on over here. Okay. So now we could try the upland creep. We see that we've moved this down. There's no patches of desert here, nor DLC black. Let's check over here. Ah, God damn it. Just one patch ruining everything. There's another patch there. The elevation is not quite good enough. All right. Let's come up here and we'll do height limits 2 to 7. And we'll do space and other terrain types of 2. And see if that improves our lot. Yes. Okay, excellent. Yes, it does. Except for right here. Do we need to repeat this a bunch of times? Here we go. Oh. No, it's still there. Ah, God damn it. Grr. Well, we could always go 1 to 7. Space and other terrain types of 3. And don't worry, we can change all this back later. Pretty sure. Oh, gosh. This thing is just fighting me. Just was not meant to be. We've even got dirt showing up over here. What a mess. All right. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and 2. And we will go to 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and 2. So this definitely was better. And then I think we'll just go in there and we'll clean that up with a post operation. Where is it? It's right there. So we will convert that to base terrain. And the height limits will be, what, 2 to something? And then we'll just have a little bit more base terrain down here. I don't even think we really needed that much. It's easy to forget your purpose when you're doing this sometimes. Alright, so to be clear, the smoothing is not causing that problem. That is coming in later. Maybe we can convert some of this dirt back to base terrain. Maybe that's the play. Let's try it. We're going to say converting some of the midland terrain back to base terrain. So we're going to create terrain base terrain, and it will be created from midland terrain. And we're going to do that within the height limits of 3 to 4, maybe. And we're probably going to need a space in other terrain types, but we'll get rid of it for now. Actually, I think we need to be 3 to 3, otherwise this is all going to be, or largely going to be, yeah, we need to be 3 to 3. Although it's kind of cool to see it like that. Height limits 3 to 3. That's terrible. Okay, let's try something else. Let's try converting midland terrain to DLC black. Let's say inserting placeholder terrain. Create terrain DLC black. And we're going to say that the base terrain is going to be LD, MD, LMD terrain. And we're not going to do anything with the height limits here. Oops. We're just going to say space into other terrain types of 1. Oh my gosh. I can't keyboard today. There we go. Alright, space in other terrain types of 1. And let's repeat this a bunch of times. Oops. Alright, we definitely need to convert this canyon first, I think. Where are we doing that? Well, alright, let's try it without. Well, I really don't want to try it without. Because we're going to convert this dirt terrain back to, yeah, we're going to convert it back to the quicksand. And it would work, except that this is still rock for whatever reason. I don't know what happened to our dirt terrain initially. So we will bring it back. Here we go. Actually, we'll define this differently. You know, it's really not in the same class. Canyon terrain conversion, we'll call it. Define canyon terrain uniformity. If canyon terrain uniformity, all right, and then we do this. That should look a lot better. Yes. Yes, much better. We actually could even space this a little bit more if we wanted to. Let's give that a try. Okay, I don't really dare do anything more than that. Okay, and then we will convert the... So then we will say converting edge remaining midland terrain to base terrain. So it's kind of like this, but the opposite direction. So BT. This is MDLND terrain, and no height limits. And let's think about this space and other terrain types. If we don't put a space and other terrain types here, then this will all get changed to base terrain as well. So I think that this number just needs to be one less than this number up here. All right. Yes. So this is smoother now. And then we can convert this DLC black back into the midland terrain. But this is much smoother now, which is what we wanted. And all it took was an hour. So let's come here. And it's usually associated with space and other terrain types. It's very logical. So we don't need any of these space and other terrain types, actually. We just need this to go here. And we need this to go here. And then we need to get rid of this. All right. So, keeping this seed still, generating the dirt again, go back to the dirt. We should have more uniform dirt at the tops now. Yep, it looks good. Now let's see if we can creep the upland. Did we do anything with the upland? No, this all looks fine. Alright. Now we cross our fingers and we hope and pray for the upland to have crept. So it crept over here. It did not creep over here because we smoothed this out, which is good. What? No! Are you kidding me? Ugh. And there's more of it over here, too. Ay, ay, ay. Well, we could go 3 and 2. Oops. Oh my gosh. Come on. It's probably not adapted to our technique. This is pretty darn smooth. Alright. We'll uncomment. We will comment that out. We will hit generate. Let's just try to get back to the basics of what we were working on. We do have a win. You know, we have smoother terrain here. Let's see if we can just get, well, actually, this really should not be so spaced out. I'm not 100% sure why that is the case. Let's forget about the upland creep for now. We had this midland layering. What were we doing with that? Removal of opening terrain on sloped surfaces. We could just resume the midland layering, I guess. Okay, this is where we were putting the black patch down here. And then maybe we turn the remainder of this terrain into this canyon terrain. And then we target any quicksand terrain that is above a certain elevation with a certain space in other terrain types. Ah, see, it's all very complicated. I'm going to think about it. So I like this. I think this is generally pretty good. I think we had pursued this midland smoothing because we were having stuff showing up over here because of this. And now we've got stuff showing up over here because of this. So it's just a big mess of things tied to each other. Maybe I just need to give it up, just accept that the terrains are where they are. Yeah, maybe that's all I have to do. And just kind of work on prettying it instead of trying to get everything to be exactly perfect. To just make it pretty. I also have to decide about the final direction for the map. Do we really need this all smoothed up here? Is the question. What does it get for us? What does smoothing this up get for us? Maybe it's all just been a colossal waste of time. I don't know. Got to think about it a little bit. About what I want to do for this map specifically. I know I want lots of unbuildable rock terrain around the edges, so they can't wall it off. And I know that I want it so that they can't walk directly to here. They have to mine or chop through these shortcut passages. But maybe it's as simple as just changing this over to the base terrain and just accept that you can't control this with terrains. Use the create actor area function. Hey, Arthur, welcome. What do you think, Arthur? I'm debating what to do here. I've spent a lot of time trying to make stuff layer perfectly. All right, well, if we bring the tops of canyons to midland terrain, flat canyon opening, let's do the same thing. I think I'm just gonna bite the bullet and just make it the same terrain in there. You managed to get a squiggle in the middle path. Of course, Arthur. This has been here for a long time. And the best part about that squiggle is that it is a random squiggle. If I hit generate, something entirely different could show up. This one's got a little loop-de-loop here. That doesn't really do anything. But sometimes nature creates formations where stuff doesn't happen. Yeah, I'm just gonna, let's convert this over for now. So we got flat canyon opening and we got flat, then we have, actually I want to call this entrance. Thanks, Arthur. We'll call this flat canyon opening. We'll call this open tur. Where you been, Arthur? We've been looking for you for team games. I understand if you've been busy, though, working on your submissions for the map contest or maybe even real-life stuff. Okay, this is unbuildable terrain, but I think it'll be all right. We will just do a bunch of little actor areas in here. Exactly? Which one? Okay, we still got desert terrain in here that is buildable. Oh, you tested Rome at War stuff? Arthur, you're killing yourself over that. Let the AI do it once they develop it. Because we do want the base of this canyon to be unbuildable as well. Both maps and real life. Ah, okay, you did both. Smart. Alright, I think I'm going to place scant amounts of forest on this. We're going to get rid of all the extra complexity, all that stuff. We're going to try to keep it simple and to the point. And we'll probably finish it another time. Come back later and pretty it up. I don't know. We'll see. If I start getting excited about progress, could potentially press on with it. Alright, let's see. What do we have here? Midland layering. We've got this undefined. Opening layering. Let's just clear all this stuff out. We're not using it. We're not using it, and we're not going to use it. We have some smoothing here. Why are we doing this smoothing? Let's comment that out and see if anything changes. No, not really. I mean, the quicksand terrain comes up the side. I guess the smoothing is important from that perspective. I was mostly looking for what does each civ actually do, not balancing units. I only had 2 comments on unit balance, actually. Are you finding that the Conqueror is interested in what you have to say about it? He, you know, he's very proud of what he's done. Sometimes I find it's difficult to get Conqueror to listen. But he does listen. You just have to, it's more important if you have proof or something. He'll find that more compelling. That's good. He does what I don't want to say that he doesn't listen, but what annoys the Conqueror is if somebody he doesn't know comes into the Rome at War server and starts saying you should do this or this or this, and they haven't tried it out, then he gets annoyed, which I guess I would too. That would be like somebody telling me that I should make a map a certain way without having looked at it or even tried playing it. He disagrees, but he does listen. Exactly. And because people don't agree, and we don't have really any testing or data that proves something, you know, it's just one person's opinion versus another, and of course, to the developer, his own opinion is what matters. The most, I should say. So we're going to define this as maybe midland smoothing. I guess it is doing something. All right. So we kind of have our base terrains in here. I'm going to give some scant, I think, maybe bushes on this. I don't really know that I want this to be desert, actually. I think I want that to be some kind of dirt terrain. And maybe we'll make this the desert out here. But I don't want the base terrain to be desert because desert is buildable. So let's try making this like DLC Dirt 4. And this is our shortcut terrain. And we'll just try to make progress on this instead of screwing around trying to smooth things out. Now DLC Dirt 4 is defined as number 42. So we want to put 42 here. Oops. We will do constant outland terrain, and we will define that as 14 for later, potentially. Well, yeah, let's just keep that for now. Oh, we have a random big hill here. I guess we've been on the same seed for a while. Alright, so here's the Dirt 4. Okay. Let us put some bushes on this Dirt 4 terrain. I don't think we're going to do multiple biomes for Petra. I think we're just going to do the one desert biome. That's pretty much what it is. I would like to also target this elevation 0 to make that the same as the base terrain. So let's do that now. So we're going to have shortcut terrain or shortcut layering. So we're going to define shortcut layering. Oops, not playering, layering. So Arthur, just out of curiosity, you can't tell me which ones, but can you give me an idea of how many maps you would be submitting for the Alchemy AOE map contest? All right, so we're going to do shortcut layering here, and we're going to convert. We're going to create terrain, base terrain, and we're going to create that from SHCT terrain. And we're going to do the height limits of 0, 0, I believe. And let's see how that looks. Canyon bed, we'll just call it canyon bed. Okay, very good. So we empty that out, and we will be putting some obstacles in here, I think. Just have to exactly figure out how it's going to work. Probably just 2? Okay. Sounds good. Appreciate that. And I think we're going to do some kind of, start doing random generations because we don't have a particular troublesome seed that we're dealing with. You could do 3 or 4, but one would be a bit uninteresting, and one would be similar to one of the main two choices. Oh, okay. I think I heard someone else who was saying he was going to submit a couple. I'm going to submit 2 probably. Um, so we should get at least 6 submissions, I'm hoping. Well, I mean, it's what our feedback is just going to be in the requirements section. Yeah, it's too bad that we can't sort of more nimbly target this with elevation, but it's fine. All right, let's hit this with some bushes now. So actually, I'm gonna hit it with a terrain mask first. Terrain mask. So we're gonna create terrain, and then we're just gonna create terrain desert. The base terrain is gonna be shortcut terrain, gonna be everywhere, and we're gonna say terrain mask 1. So we're gonna have desert on top of this dirt 4. See how that looks. Oh yeah, that looks good. I mean, the dirt 4 is a little bit, it's got a little bit of vegetation in it for my liking. Maybe we can change it over to something different. But we have to be careful not to reuse anything. So we want dirt that does not have any grass in it. Maybe we just do 76 dirt mud. See how that looks. Try out some different terrains here. Yeah, because remember, Arthur, that you can always specify priority. You can always say, evaluate this one first, and then if you need more, consider these other ones after it. Okay, that does not look too shabby there, if I do say so myself. We could also mask it with the quicksand, actually. Maybe that would be a more worthwhile venture. It'll still be buildable because it's terrain mask 1. So you could still build the pyramids on it. You can't build on this. Alright, so now we target that for trees. Tree application on shortcut terrain. You have one map with several designs of forest. Is it possible that the jury looks at all these different versions of that one map and picks one? No. What they will do is they will look at them and make sure that the map would work for all versions. And then if it will, they will move it on to the next round. And then people will appreciate additional variation from those forests as part of like maybe improved visual appeal. And that's where it will help you. But if the forests could be potentially unfair for one particular version of it, then it won't make it to that stage because the judges will say, hey, we need to prevent this from moving on in the competition because there's a chance that these unfair forests could spawn. That is your choice, Arthur. It's up to you. If you are confident in your ability to balance all versions of the forests on the map, and you feel that they can all meet the technical requirements, then having more variety for your map will improve its subjective scoring in the voting stage after the objective analysis is done. So we're going to apply some trees on this shortcut terrain, and I think that we want the dragon forest. Yeah, exactly, Arthur. You have to make that decision. I can't make that call for you. But I can just explain how it could help you, but it could also hurt you. It depends on if it's done well. So we're going to do DLC Dragon Forest. And we're going to place this on some base terrain of the shortcut terrain. And we're going to do number of clumps, maybe 24. And land percent, let's try 4% the land for now. Oh, wow. 4% is way too much. And it's just got traditional dirt there. So let's dial back that percentage. I think 1% is going to be the objective. Yep, that looks about right. We need to add clumping factor as well. I'm trying to remember what the ideal roundness clumping factor is. I believe that it's 32 for terrains. We'll do slightly smaller clumps. Number of clumps 24. Clumping factor 32, I think, maybe. Let's take a look. See also clumping factor land. Useful range. Okay, so we actually want 25 to create. What's the default? It's 20, okay. Which is different than for lands. So we'll do clumping factor 25. And we also need to do space into other terrain types of like 3. So that we can keep this dragon forest away from here. We technically could specify height limits if we wanted to, but I don't want to. How does it look on Tiny? It looks even better on Tiny. So this would be pretty tough. I didn't want to have the map randomly pick between several forests. I wanted to force only one of those forest layouts on that map, and I wanted to be sure that the chosen layout is the one that the pro players like the most. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by pro players. We're not going to have any pro players in the Alchemy League. We can't afford them, frankly. Do you mean Are you making a map for a map contest or for use in another pro tournament that you're asking advice about? All right, let's mask the base terrain over this forest. 1300 plus is pro player for you. Well, I'm sure that the real pro players would not appreciate that comparison. But I appreciate the vote of confidence, Arthur. I'm almost tempted to do our fancy trick where we make sure that everybody has the same number of forests on both sides. And I think I should. I really should do that. So in other words, I should put down a placeholder, and then make sure that both sides get the same number of forests, because it's only 1% of the map. Somebody could argue, well, your side had more forests than my side. And this would also give me the ability to make this more sparsely forested, which I think is the right thing to do. Yeah. So I'll be right back, guys. Let me step away real quick. And when I get back, we'll do the forests for that shortcut terrain. All right, I'm back. So, we don't actually need to mask this just yet. We'll do that later. So we're going to say creating placeholder terrain, and we're going to create terrain DLC black. The base terrain is going to be in shortcut terrain. We're going to attempt to fill it 100%, but we're only going to have one clump. Clumping factor doesn't matter, and it will not have any space in other terrain types. And now we will apply the trees on just this DLC black, or we could apply them to the shortcut terrain. Either way, it's fine, as long as we do both terrains. we will copy this over. And then we will convert all DLC black terrain back to shortcut terrain. Okay, I'm going to say revert terrain. And then we're going to mask it. So we'll have exactly the same, but the disadvantage, and this should look the same. We're going to put down a mask on this. You know, I'm tempted to make these wood lines unwallable, actually. I think that would be pretty fun. But I think that would also be super annoying. It would really stress the players out, I think. So I don't think we're going to do that. As much fun as that would be for me to watch, I would hate playing it. And I should try to make maps that I would like to play. Although they'd basically all be arena maps, or versions of arena at that point. Alright, let's give these... Let's give them a terrain mask as well. DLC Dragon Forest. We're going to mask that. That should look nice. Looks like it applies in some places, but not others. We might have to repeat this for good measure. Oh, shoot. We haven't been scaling this by groups at all, have we? Set scale by groups. Yeah, we need to set scale by groups everywhere. This is a solid command. Oops. So we've been doing it here. Oh man, I didn't even see that. Yikes. Okay, but here we need it. More scaling by groups. Yes, more and more. Should help out a lot. It explains why the groups look so smaller on the tiny map size. Alright, we really need to target this right here. Now I think I have a 0.5% somewhere. I'm trying to think of where I have it. Could dig up GitHub, or we could just... Yeah, let's see if we can get it from another map. Since I don't feel like re-deriving it. Let's see. No, not in that one. I think maybe this one? Nope. Maybe this one. Here we go. Alright, let's try this. This is our baseline. I don't know, I don't remember what this is. I don't know if this is the right thing, but we will give this a try. So where were we? Ah yes, we were dragon foresting. Number of clumps. Oops. Space and other train types of 3. And we will paste that in there. So we have a different number of tiles depending on the map size. Alright, let's cross our fingers that we don't have to mess with that. Yeah, that's obviously way too many. So I guess we will go and mess with it. So let's try cutting it in half for this map size. Let's see if that works. Still too many. Let's try cutting it in a quarter. So it's 50. So 50 is 1/4 of what it was. I think that's better. I like that. We can adjust the number of clumps here. Maybe we set the clumps equal to 6 and 6. Yeah, that looks pretty promising. Actually going to reduce it further to 4, I think. So the number of clumps is 4, and it is at 1/4 what it was from what we copied and pasted. Perfect. You can try to wall all that off, but I think it will be tricky. So let's go and let's make them all 1/4 of what we see. So we're going to cut this one down to 45. This one's going to cut down to 40. This one's going to cut down to maybe 32. This one will cut down to 30. This we'll bump this up a little bit, maybe to 35. Kind of split the difference, if you will. Who knows? And this was probably rounded heavily as well. This is going to be 25, so we don't even know if these numbers were true. I like to think that I would have gotten it right on my map, but you never know. Okay, so that looks good. All right. Let's repeat that masking command a couple more times for this dragon forest, just because I think it's a bit obstinate. And now we're going to go through the different sizes and just make sure that everything looks reasonable. Yeah, that looks pretty good. These are going to be awful lumber camps. But fundamentally, you can wall them in. Well, except for over here. But you could try to like wall off to this. All right, let's go down in size. And we'll continue to keep an eye on it. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. Let's go down again. Yep. Yep. Oh! That is a rare one right there. We're not going to solve that with terrains. That one is a land growth problem. All right. We are going to have to pull up our GNU Octave file for this one. It's a good thing we saw that. It looks like a very rare thing. And so how do we target that? That is going to be the midland span. It's got a certain size associated with it. And it's this right here. We could open that up to 39 maybe and try that and see if that makes a difference. It may not though. We'll see. It'll only take a couple seconds to run. It's only 190 lands. Okay, and it's all done. So keeping this same seed, we'll hit generate again. And this should allow this to just barely slip over the top of this. and it does not quite enough. We'll open the window a little bit more. Oops. We need to run this after doing that. I'm worried, though, if we open this window up too much, that we will not get the proper players. We won't get this proper unbuildable terrain. Yeah, so as you can see, it now fills. This is the small size. What about tiny size? Okay, I guess it's okay. It's all right. Oh, no. It is not okay. Look at that. So, we have to go back to 38, and we will reduce the amplitude of our bell curve shape. Y range, let's try making that 78. And what were we using for our offset? Of 9. All right. Let's see if that helps out a little bit. We'll keep this seed and we'll go back to, we'll cycle through. We'll go back to small. See if that helps it. Okay, it's all set. Okay, and that does indeed work. Hey! X Factor, welcome. So now we go down to tiny size. And good. We've got our forests placed. You know, it's really not a lot of forests when you think about it. And we're not really saying where those forests should appear. This is pretty sparse up here. But I think that we're going to put more gold and stuff. It's nice to see you too. Although you can't see me right now because I didn't feel like shaving before the stream. So therefore there is no webcam. Alright, well this is just going to be a little problem child, isn't it? Keep this seed and we will come over here and we will specify that the window I've got this as 90. We could maybe decrease this to 89. I don't want to make too many big changes because I spent a lot of time off stream getting those parameters right. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay. Well, good thing we can catch such things. I really wish that the path were more snaky and random than this. But it's very difficult to achieve. Maybe some people, after a little while, some people will have some ideas about how to improve the snakiness of it. All right, here's the opening here. And we're still going to have the rocks around this. Okay. We got our forests up here. That's the important thing. They appear to take up less of the map because these are actually the same number of tiles regardless of whether or not it's 1v1 or whether or not it is, you know, a giant map. Whether or not it's a two-player map size or a giant map size. So it's actually harder to wall in 1v1. Okay. This is good though. So what other kinds of trees are around Petra? I think they're mainly just bushes. We can put some more dragon forest up here, perhaps. This gravel terrain. Well, this is all unbuildable terrain down here. But we're mainly going to be putting golds and stones, I think, up here. But first things first, we're going to convert this all to our shortcut terrain. Now that we've got these forests down, we're going to convert this to the shortcut terrain, but we're going to give the space into other terrain types. So we're going to converting outlying base terrain to shortcut terrain. So we're going to convert the base terrain to shortcut terrain. Land percent 100, number of clumps 9320, set scale by groups, and spacing to other terrain types, very importantly. We're going to set that equal to 1. No, we're going to set that equal to 2. Or even 3, so it's harder to block. And so that it doesn't spill into this canyon here. Alright, so we have it filling up this creek bed, which I think is actually kind of a good thing, that it fills that up. But it really does take up that space, doesn't it? And I think we're going to give it terrain mask 2. Terrain mask 2. Oops. I don't know. It looks dirty and stuff. It would be cool to have it look like an actual sort of abandoned riverbed down here. But I'm not precisely sure how to do that. Let's take a look at a larger size giant. See how we do. Yeah, it really does creep its way in here, doesn't it? I guess that's a good thing. We'll be putting all kinds of rocks and stuff like that along the edges here. But I don't know how I feel about this. That's the thing. I feel that this should all be desert. So I'm wondering if we can use spacing to other terrain types to manipulate that. Perhaps in combination with height limits of sorts. If we dialed up the spacing to other terrain types, maybe to 6, how would that look? Oh, this practically gets emptied out, huh? Which is what we want. So let us actually change that to desert, because that's what we want. We'll make it space in other terrain types of like 8. It's hard to tell exactly what is the desert and what is, so desert but not desert. So once we get past about here, it's no longer desert, but it's hard to see that because it is masked. But I think we might be able to use our creeping techniques here to kind of inch closer and closer in while preserving this as its own thing. So I don't want this to change for now. Of course, this is also going to be unbuildable in that region. Let's try getting rid of that command again. Let me take a step back and think. So it's all unbuildable right now. Every last bit of it. I'm going to put down a placeholder terrain. I think that's the first step. I'll use DLC black because it is easy to see. We're going to do this by height limits. And we're going to go maybe 3 to 7. Still showing up over there. All right, I'll tell you what. I think this is a good spot to end the stream for now. And that'll give me a little bit more time to think about this. I actually do have to step out. I'll be back and I'll be working on this tomorrow as well. So I will think about this if there's a like a good way to get this. Remember that we did convert some stuff earlier over here. So maybe we have to go back and not convert that so that we can specifically target this area but not this area. So I think I might be able to use this DLC black potentially um, in this stage, but I really want to think about this a little bit more before I continue. But it's starting to look, if we get rid of the oil here, it's starting to look like a proper Age of Empires 2 map. Like an actual sort of desert map. You can't really tell that it's Petra yet. But it looks like it could be a place in the desert for now. And it looks way better than it did before. We got features defined. I wish I hadn't spent an hour trying to get something to be smooth when it really doesn't matter. But I'm pleased with how it's looking so far. This is looking good. But a lot is going to happen in the next couple of days. So if you want to see the map come together, be sure to catch my next stream on this. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know a lot of it is pretty boring and repetitive, watching tech grapple with how to make something do something. But the map is starting to come together. So thanks for your support, and hopefully we'll be able to complete this soon.